Governor's Office of Early Childhood for our Community Early Childhood Webinar Series. Today, our webinar is entitled, How You Can Become an Early Childhood Cheerleader. But before we begin, I want to remind everyone, whatever device you're using to listen, please hit the mute button now. Also, if you have questions, you can type in the chat box, and we will answer those questions as they are received. As you heard just a minute ago, we are recording this webinar, so if you have members of your CECC who are unable to join us live, you can always share that link with them at your next meeting so they can see what they missed. So here we go. Today we are pleased to announce the content experts for this webinar are two women who are early childhood champions. Terry Tolan, the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Early Childhood, and Cindy Heine, who is the chairperson of the Early Childhood Advisory Council's Public Awareness Work Group. She is the initiator of the Strong Start campaign. She formerly was the Associate Director of the Pritchard Committee. So I am going to turn it over to these ladies to talk to you about becoming an early childhood cheerleader. Terry?
Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to join you today. We planned this particular topic of becoming an early childhood cheerleader for today because, as we all know, we are very much in a time of transition in Kentucky at the end of Governor Beshear's term. And in times of transition, I think it's especially important that all of us raise our voices to make sure that early childhood remains a high priority for Kentucky in the future. The reason we want to have this discussion with you is that we know that community early childhood councils are the local boots on the ground. You're the change agents in your communities. You're the ambassadors. You are, in fact, at the local level, the voice of early childhood in your community. So it's important for you to be a part of this work in the coming months. We've been so fortunate in Kentucky that we've had a governor who really believes in the importance of investing in early childhood, not only in the kind of short agenda of allowing more children to be eligible for publicly supported programs, but also in our big agenda of making sure that families have the support that they need, as well as children having access to high-quality programs, both public and private. So just a few minutes about some of the things that we've accomplished in recent years, and I hope you celebrate them as I do. In 2011, the state of Kentucky adopted the kindergarten readiness definition. Many of you have made such great use of it at the local level, making sure that it gets in the hands of families. I see posters all over the state from school districts, from child care programs, and from Head Start programs with the kindergarten readiness definition. We've seen beautiful parent-focused websites that have been built around it, but the kindergarten readiness definition really was an important tool in helping us communicate with families what is expected of children at the time that they come to kindergarten, and led us to the opportunity to have a universal kindergarten screen beginning in 2012 with the pilot, and then in all 173 school districts in 2013. So the screener, while probably not everybody on the line agreed that it was an important or even a good idea, has done exactly what we hoped it would do, and that was it has allowed us to really focus the conversation at the local level about what children need in the early years. And that's exactly what we hoped would happen. So whether you think it's a perfect solution or not, it does give us a new tool in our toolbox that allows us to communicate with policymakers and with local leadership as well. Governor Beshear also was a tremendous supporter and cheerleader of our application for the Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge and worked tirelessly on our behalf, not only to see us make great progress in the earliest years of the new Office of Early Childhood so that we could highlight that progress in our next application, but also in using his voice as an advocate for Kentucky's work in early childhood. And, of course, I would obviously think that it's important that the governor, based on the recommendation from the Early Childhood Task Force, re-establish the Office of Early Childhood in the governor's office, where it had been a number of years before. My perspective on that's probably a little different from that of other people, having been in this executive director seat for now a little more than 4 years, but I know that we could not have successfully accomplished all that we have in that 4 short years if we had not had the governor's name and the governor's support as we worked across cabinets and with our legislative leaders. So the Office of Early Childhood's placement in the governor's office is a key strategy for keeping early childhood progress moving forward in Kentucky. Also, in this administration, we've expanded preschool eligibility now to 160% of the federal poverty level, and Governor Beshear has always said that his goal is to move that to 200% of poverty over time. And then, of course, of special importance in the current time when there's so much work going on around the Kentucky All-Stars rating system, passage of House Bill 234 last year to bring all publicly funded programs into the All-Stars rating system has also been really important progress for us, and we already see a huge increase in participation in the existing rating system, Stars for Kids Now, as we prepare to pilot, as we are doing now, the new rating system and to launch it fully next year. So what are we looking for from you? We want to make sure that we have that kind of momentum in the next 8 years, just as we have in this nearly at the end 8 years. And so we're asking you to become great cheerleaders in this time of transition. We know that if you work for a nonprofit organization, as many of our CECC members do, or if you work in government, that you cannot and would not want to endorse a particular candidate in your official role. And the same is true for us. But as a citizen and as a community leader, you have not only a right, but you have a responsibility to speak up about issues of importance to you, to your community, and to our kids. So we're going to encourage you in the next half hour or so to really get ready to raise up your voice in the coming weeks and once a new gubernatorial administration is in place. We've been meeting with other states and partners around the country and working with them on strategies to make sure that early childhood remains a high priority, regardless of who our next governor is in Kentucky. And Cindy Heine is going to share with you some of the things that we heard from the National Governors Association and other state partners as we've held those meetings. So Cindy, tell us where we're headed now.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Hazel, for the nice introduction, and thanks to our listeners for joining us today. Your work as CECC partners in our Kentucky communities is very important on several levels, including the work you do to coordinate and plan for programs in your community, but also in the messages that you send to your community about the importance of providing quality early care and education, giving our children a better shot at success in school and beyond. The Governor's Office of Early Childhood recently received a small grant from the National Governors Association, and I'll call them the NGA from now on, to work on messaging and to create support for our work in early care and education to keep early childhood at the top of the political agenda. The NGA is a very strong supporter of efforts to provide quality early care and education across the country because they know the value of those programs. Several members of the Early Childhood Advisory Council met two NGA representatives late this summer. They shared what has happened in other states, and they listened to where we are and what we need in Kentucky right now. They helped us refine our plan for next steps. They have worked with other states who have elected new governors, and they wanted to help assure a smooth transition in Kentucky that does not result in any backsliding on the important progress that we have made. They were very excited about what progress we have made in Kentucky and in learning about our CECCs and the opportunity to engage you in getting our message out. That message is basically that funding quality programs for our young children provides Kentucky with a strong return on our investment, and that is children better prepared for success in school and beyond, needing fewer costly remedial and other social programs. Whoops, I'm going backwards, pardon me. We want to impress upon you the importance of your voices, those of you on the ground caring for children every day in your own communities. Your experiences, your stories can be powerful messages that influence public policy decisions. Your elected officials, local board members, city and county leaders, state legislators, are always looking for good information that helps them when it comes to decision making. I've heard legislators repeat stories about what they've heard from their constituents that demonstrates a specific need or an effective use of tax dollars. So remember, your stories and your conversations can make an important difference. We are providing talking points for you. I think you have those in hand, or they were sent to you earlier, and we're going to walk through them just in a few minutes. So if and when you have a chance to talk with candidates or elected officials, you have some thoughts about what you might say and what you might ask. You never know when you might run into a local board member or state legislator at the grocery store, in church, at local civic meetings, at local fall festivals, or other community events. Let's go over these talking points. Terry, do you have anything to add on the NGA work?
Cindy, thanks so much for introducing that topic. I think that the only thing I would add is that the NGA was really very excited that you all are such an integral part of our work, because they saw that as being a wonderful opportunity to speak to candidates and to the new governor, whoever he may be, and to really speak on behalf of local communities, large and small, throughout the Commonwealth.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Let's go over the talking points. I think these are things that you are familiar with, you know about, and you will have your own stories to tell. But first of all, parents and families are a child's first and best teacher, and they play a really important role in preparing their children for success in school and life. Quality programs involve parents and support them in helping their children grow and develop. And you can give examples of that on your own. But I think so many times when we talk about early care and education, you'll hear from some politicians and leaders that children ought to be home. It's the parents' responsibility. Well, we agree parents are really important. But one of the problems is many parents have to work and don't have the luxury of staying home to care for their children. They need child care, they need quality child care, so their children are in safe and enriched environments so that they are better prepared for school and for success. But we as early care and education providers understand the importance of family. And Terry, anytime you want to chime in on any of these, feel free. The second point, research shows that 90% of brain development occurs by age 5, and in fact, a huge percent of that happens by the age of 3, laying the foundation for learning for a lifetime. As we know, the synapses and the development happens so early on, and it's so important where our children are spending their time and what kind of environments they're in. We need to invest not only in preschool, but also in child care. I think we also can remember and remind candidates and legislators that HANDS, our home visiting program, has a very strong and long track record of providing support for our families in those very early years. So there is another place where Kentucky's programs are supporting families, but also focusing on those very early important years of development. Next, research shows that investing in early childhood is one of the most cost-efficient approaches to increasing education, health, and economic outcomes. Nobel Prize-winning economist James Heckman says that for every dollar we spend for quality early childhood programs, we get $7 in return over a child's lifetime. When children go to quality preschool programs and have had good early beginnings, fewer of them need remediation, fewer of them need special education services, and fewer of them are being held back in school. When you think about the cost of about $10,000 per child for a year of school, and even more per year for children with disabilities and special learning needs, you can see where the savings begins to come into play. More children who go to quality programs graduate from high school and go on to some form of college or technical training. That means they're more likely to be working as adults, paying taxes, having savings accounts, owning their own homes, and you can see again where the savings come in. Children who experience quality early learning programs are healthier, more self-sufficient, and less likely to enter the criminal justice system over their lifetime. When you think about the cost of incarcerating one person for 1 year, which is now in Kentucky close to $20,000, you can see the cost savings there. It's just good basic common sense. Just as we think, too, about the economic benefits and the self-sufficiency, just this week, there was a story quoting a Mike Petters, who was a top executive for Hunting Ingalls Industries, the parent company of Newport News Shipbuilding, and they have about 20,000 employees in Virginia. They build Navy aircraft carriers and submarines, and he said, he was quoted in the paper, that early childhood education demands more attention from business and government leaders. And again, I quote, I believe early childhood education in America is a national security issue and one that we as Americans need to be concerned with. For us to keep our economy strong and to remain competitive on this global stage, we must invest in education at the very beginning. Petters talked about the skills gap, and that's something that Professor Heckman talks about, that some employers say prevents them from hiring people because of the lack of those skills. And he says it can be tracked back to children falling behind before they even start kindergarten. I have come to call these the executive skills, the ability to stick to something and complete a project, to work and get along with others, to show up on time, skill development that begins in our early care and education programs. Business and community leaders too often think we are just babysitting. They don't understand that we are working to build those basic, very important lifelong skills. When they begin to understand that, they become strong supporters. And I think even our legislators don't always get it. If you have specific examples that you can talk to people about, children coming from very low-income families who look like they don't have a shot and yet they go on to complete school, those stories are very important for our legislators. Mr. Petters.
We had just had the opportunity a week ago to present with some other early childhood and education advocates at the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky's one-day conference, and pointed out to them Dr. Heckman's latest analysis of the Abecedarian Project, the long-term study, and those executive skills also have a tremendous impact on lifelong health as well, because those children who were in high-quality early childhood programs make better decisions related to risk behaviors that affect their health.
So those kinds of things that you're working on your children with are so important, and it's really important to help, again, our community and policy and state leaders to understand that we're doing more than just providing children with a safe environment. We're helping them build those really critical executive skills. Next point, Kentucky has a state kindergarten entry screener giving us readiness data on every child entering school and allowing us to invest in programs that work. Legislators love to hear about ways in which we can use tax dollars efficiently. And with the data we now have, we can identify areas where we need to invest and areas where we are seeing specific success. You have data that helps with your planning and coordinating services, and that also is important. And I want to remind you that the data, Terry, I'm blanking on the name of it, the data sheets that you have by county are
the early childhood profiles.
Yes, profiles. Those profiles are really important. Anytime that you know you're going to be talking with a legislator or a candidate or a local community person, pull those profiles out, give them a copy, and help them see what the data looks like in your own community. One of the things they also like to know is what kind of money is coming into their community, so you can show them what kinds of investments are being made right there in your own counties. So those are important. Terry, anything else on that? I guess not.
Just that it does give us such an important tool, and we still are among the few states who have a multi-domain screener, and we are one of only 2 states that use tobacco settlement dollars to support early childhood initiatives.
Kentucky has really made tremendous progress. If you talk to people across the country, they frequently are asking, how did you do this? How is Kentucky so far ahead in so many ways? And we can thank our former governors and elected officials for the work that they've done, and also for our advocates who have worked hard over the years. Since 2000, Kentucky has dedicated 25% of tobacco settlement dollars to early childhood, but these funds have been in decline. Now, that's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is the money is in decline because the rate of smoking and the income from smoking has declined, so the dollars are decreasing. And the good thing is that people aren't smoking as much. The bad thing is there's less money for our Kids Now programs that have been funded by the tobacco money. Those funds have supported STARS. They've supported the scholarships that you all use for early care and education professionals. They have been used to support the HANDS home visiting program and many other programs that help provide support for healthy births and healthy children. We really need these programs to provide the broader, more comprehensive needs in serving young children and their families. They've often been used to fill gaps where there are children who have fallen into a gap and maybe not qualified for immunizations or other services that are very important for them. So we need to advocate for additional dollars to help support those programs. Terry, anything more there?
No, just, as you say, there's the good and the bad also on the expenditure side, in that while the tobacco settlement dollars are declining year by year, they have in some ways since the recession been more stable than the state budget overall. So they have sheltered us to some degree from the extreme cuts that many programs have seen in state government.
So I think you want to be sure to let elected officials know how important those dollars have been in many ways, and that we need to continue having dollars from tobacco settlement. And then the last big point that we'll make, since 2011, Kentucky has had an early childhood headquarters, so to speak, led by Terry Tolan in the Governor's Office of Early Childhood. And they've been coordinating, innovating, and collaborating to streamline services for our children and families. These services, this coordination, has been very important in providing the support for you in your local communities, doing the same kinds of things, coordinating, collaborating, using your dollars and your resources as efficiently as you can. Governor Beshear's task force first recommended that the Early Childhood Office be moved to the Governor's office, and the GOEC has provided coordination support, including applying for and being awarded the $44 million Early Learning Challenge Grant, which is allowing us to ramp up and revamp the STARS program. That coordination is really important. The ability to work at all levels across cabinets is very important for our work, and being in the Governor's office gives it much more visibility and enhances the ability to provide that coordination. I'm sure that you have specific examples and stories of your own that you can share with legislators. We hope you'll find these talking points to be important. The questions that come with them are questions you could ask if the time seemed right and appropriate. And so we leave you with those. Terry, do you have anything else to add to that?
I just, like you, Cindy, would encourage them to add their own stories and examples to all of these, or to talk about the work that your council or your organization is doing in local communities throughout the Commonwealth.
Okay. Now, what are we suggesting that you might do? We are very close to our gubernatorial election. and there's not a lot of time between now and then, but if you should happen to have a conversation with candidates or for governor or lieutenant governor or any of their staff, you might use these talking points in your stories to make the point that we've made tremendous progress in Kentucky, and we hope that they will continue to invest and move our early care and education programs forward. Second, we are sending an op-ed that we have just completed to some local papers, and we will be sharing that with you. That they'll be going out early next week. We'll be sharing them with you and hope that you will make a point of calling your local papers and getting it published. We'd like to get it in 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 local newspapers before the November election. Local papers are often delighted to have things that they can simply copy and paste into their space. They prefer email, so if we send you the email version, feel free to forward it on. You might talk to folks ahead of time if you know them at your papers. If you don't have an email handy that you can use to get something directly to the publisher or the editor, you might look that up so you've got it ready to go. So that's the second thing you can do. And the third thing you can do is there are some forums coming up, not as many as there had been, because there have been quite a few forums and debates. But if you happen to attend, or if you have the opportunity to submit a question, and we've listed the ones KET, we'll be taking questions from the public. So there are opportunities for you to submit questions to candidates for governor before the election. So that's another thing that you can do. After the election, there are other things that you can do, and we hope you will remember this isn't just a one-time activity, but it's something you can do throughout the year. Remember, next fall, we will be electing all of our state legislators. They'll be up for re-election, and we'll be electing half of our state senators. So they will be in election mode. They have to file by the end of January, but they'll be in election mode, and it's important for them to be reminded of the importance of early care and education. And it's best if you connect with them before they go into the session. So once they hit January and start heading off to Frankfort, they get pretty busy. It's good to connect with them before they go to Frankfort. So visit your legislators out of session. Get to know them. Share with them information about your programs and about your CECC. Take these legislators to visit your local early childhood programs. There's nothing better than, and there are no better photo ops than an early childhood program with legislators talking with young children. And when they can see and you can point out to them exactly what is happening and why, and building those executive skills and in teaching children the things they need to know to be ready for kindergarten, there's nothing better than that to share the message that we're trying to share with legislators. You could write thank you notes. There's nothing, legislators rarely get thank you notes, and they pay attention to those. So you could write a thank you note to legislators when they take positive action on an early childhood issue, or if they should come to visit a program, a childhood program with you. You can share the talking points with your fellow CECC members. Encourage them to do the same thing. Invite legislators to your CECC meetings or special activities. It could be very valuable for them to attend a meeting and see how the activities are being coordinated in your community and how many people are engaged.
I might add, Cindy, if you host Super Saturdays, invite a legislator to come be a speaker at your Super Saturday session. So,
good idea.
So they're exposed to a whole room full of early childhood advocates.
That's a great idea. And then be sure anytime you think you are going to see a legislator, or maybe you just want to have it in your hip pocket, be sure to take the early childhood profiles, because they are such important pieces of information about your community. And then you can also write a letter to the editor in your local paper sharing examples of what you're doing in your community and the value of what's happening in your community and what's happening in early childhood. And with that, I'd like to thank you for the work you are doing, and thank you for being an advocate, a cheerleader for our kids. We are very hopeful that in this transition, we will end up with a governor who is supportive of early childhood programs and will continue to move the work forward, using, obviously, programs that work and investing our dollars wisely. So we thank you, and if you've got questions, we'll be happy to try to answer them.
Yes, please do. Feel free to type your questions in the chat box, or now, Tori, is there actually a way for them to unmute if they would like to actually speak?
There is not at this time, but if they submit their questions, we will do our best to address those.
Thank you. So Hazel, we'll look for questions, and then we'll go back to you. Don't be shy, you all. All right. Well, Hazel, doesn't look like anybody's typing, so back to you.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. I always learn something from you both. I just have a few announcements and wanted to share some information with you. We have sent out this information about the new Kentucky Early Childhood Standards 102 course on ECE TRIS. Please share that with any provider in your community. Sent you the link, and if anybody doesn't have that, please give me a shout out and I'd be happy to resend it. We send things through Constant Contact, so please make sure we're not landing up in your spam folder. I am asking everyone to send me an email about upcoming community events that are happening in your area within the next 30 days. We have a good group of CECCs that have made it all the way through the process and have received their funding, and I know several of you are getting ready to do some kickoffs and different things. So if you'll just send me an email and let me know what's going on, I'll contact you and see if I can come in and join in with you. I'd love that. School Readiness Summit, November 18th, 2015. I'm going to read you just a little short description of what that is. It is our office, the Governor's Office of Early Childhood, and we are pleased to announce the 2015 School Readiness Summit. This is made possible by that NGA grant that we spoke of earlier. The purpose of the School Readiness Summit is to help school districts, early learning providers, and community organizations throughout the Commonwealth make the vital connections and collaborations necessary for student success from birth through grade 3. The date for the summit, again, is November 18th. There is an application. That application is on our website. You can access it at kidsnow.ky.gov. The participants in the summit, it's limited. We have limited it to 25 teams, and those teams need to be made up of people that are on the application. There will be a selection process, and there is an application process. It is a one-day event focusing on these three areas: helping superintendents understand that collective action with community partners and parents is the key to preparing more children for school entry, providing the tools and knowledge to allow schools to engage partners and the public in preparing children in the early years, and improving coordination between early childhood education and community partners. CECC members are specifically named as a preferred partner on the application. So do not be surprised if you get a call from your superintendent. And as we say, that will be a application and a selection process. If anyone has any questions about that, please shoot Jennifer Miller in our office an email. Her email address is Jennifer, Jennifer, middle initial S, .miller@ky.gov. I also sent out an application notification for the SOAR grants that are in your area. You may want to look at that press release and see, reach out to some of your community partners and see if you think that's appropriate for you all to make application. I wanted to share a resource with you, and this resource was put together by none other than a CECC member and a lady who is the Youth Services Specialist at the Paul Sawyer Public Library in Frankfort, Kentucky. She's written a book, and the book is Counting Down to Kindergarten. The resource is available. You can order it online. It was developed and put out by Lynn Baker here in Franklin County. I'm going to circle back and go to the School Readiness Summit. Please be sure that everyone understands that the superintendent, the grant application must come from the superintendent's office, and he must sign off on it. It cannot just come from community partners. It must involve the superintendent's signature at the very least, and preference is given for applications that have the superintendent coming to the event. Let's see. Also, I had sent out an email and asked all the chairs to update your information for our website, and I've got about half you folks who have complied with that request, and the other half have not. So our website is dated, and we are trying to make sure we have the most accurate information out there, because when superintendents reach out for you all they have to do is log on our website. There's your name and there's your email address. But if you haven't given us the current information, then we can't pass it on. I just see that Natori has put on the chat box the school readiness application link. I also need to let everybody know that we will be archiving this webinar, and we will send that information out to you. We'll send you out the talking points when we send that, and we will also, we've just given you the link to the school readiness application, but we'll send that again, and we will ask you to complete a Survey Monkey to let us know who would like to do an op-ed piece in their local area. So my final note to each of you is Election Day is November 3rd. Please don't forget to vote. I hope you've enjoyed our webinar, and thank you for your attendance. If anybody needs me at any point in time, please reach out with an email, Hazel, hazel.combs@ky.gov. Thank you, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.